Hey everyone, it's the Nitty Professor. I'm here today with Paris to consider the question of how, in the face of so much cruelty on full exhibit of late, can I or any of us, through our crafting, regain our faith in humanity? Because I'm sure I'm not alone when I express that I've been suffering lately a certain level of concern for the ability of people that I kind of assumed were decent and good, to actually realize that those qualities, So it is easy to be hopeless. It's very, very easy to be hopeless. I was talking to my son a few days ago and reminding him, when we were in Budapest, we visited, I think it's called the House of Terror. So as some of you already know, I spent a number of weeks and months behind the Iron Curtain. And it was like those people did that kind of thing. On this side of the Iron Curtain, we didn't do that stuff. Well, now we're doing that stuff. And is there a way that I can leverage this activity to help me through this moment? So I think there is, and I'm going to go through some points, and we'll see if you agree, because I don't want for us to be hopeless. Then what would we have, right? I think in the bottom of our hearts, we have to assume that people are good and that they're, shall we say, corrigible. So let's look at some evidence. Craft is evidence, dare I say, of care made visible or care made tangible. It is, when you make something, especially if you make it for someone, even if it's for yourself or for your dog, or, I met someone recently who was making blankets out of her stash yarn for kittens at a veterinary clinic. Craft is like a tangible proof that humans are capable of care, and that we can use our hands and our plans, our intentions to make life better. That we spend a lot of people spend a lot of time investing in creating something that didn't even need to exist. You do it out of love, out of the kindness of your heart. And it is heartening. It does contribute to a narrative of the capacity for love. That humans are creative more than they are destructive. That they are unselfish. Hey, Smaug. We rescued him, by the way. He just showed up. That they are more unselfish than they are selfish. Right, Paris? Okay, honey, you gotta move out of the way of the camera, babe. So here's another idea. I was thinking about this in a way that was kind of keeping me grounded. That, there's a lot of tradition of making, a lot of tradition, and I've talked about this before, the ancestry. The theme comes up in my novel. I mean, the first novel, the whole idea that the 4 times great-grandmother exercises her care for her family in a very tangible way, but in a way that also incorporates danger into it to rescue her child. This goes back a long ways. So across cultures and eras, people have made textiles to shelter children. This also comes up in book 4 of my novel. It's like a huge theme in book 4 of my novel. To give to elders, to protect, comfort elders, travelers, vulnerable people, vulnerable animals, preemies, people who have cancer, kittens in a veterinary clinic, homeless people. It is a wonderful feeling to engage in an activity that connects me to all those people who've done wonderful things for their family, their community, people in need, just like what I'm doing, just with needles. And I have like quilts. My kids were given quilts when they were baptized, and that was an act of care. People cared for my kids through their hands, through their crafting, and we still have them. It still just means a lot to look at those and think about the people who made them for us on our behalf, out of their capacity for doing good things. Can be very helpful. Another thing that's really nice, this is something I experienced at Rock Day. I talked about that. Just meeting people who have all kinds of reasons for crafting, and to do it together in a way that builds community, that fosters connection, and that reminds us that we can enhance, support each other's dignity, each other's beauty, each other's value, worth, and meaning as humans, by doing something together that connects us in a profound way. I mean, I didn't even know a lot of these people's names, and some of them I had seen before, and a few of them were my friends, but a few of them I'm like, I don't know who you are. But because we're engaged in this activity together, I still feel connected to you just through, the communal act of spinning, the communal act of knitting, of crocheting, of fiber crafting. It's just a wonderful thing. It's just a great reminder that, we have a community. We can teach each other, we can share patterns, troubleshoot mistakes. That was something that was going on at a knitting meeting that I had on Sunday with friends. Yeah, honey, you need to give me just a little more space, baby girl. One of my friends just really had a whole complete row. It was kind of a disaster. And it was really fun to watch her sister encourage her and say, we can fix this. We don't even have to wait. Let's just do it now. It's like mutual aid, crafting aid. It's part of who we are. It's like an instinct, human cooperation. And that is also something that I'm seeing in the news. It's scary to witness, people who give up, who take risks for each other. But it's who we are. It's who we are. It's who we are. And you kind of get this opportunity to witness the kindness of people, to witness the patience, the encouragement of people in a community of fiber crafters. And you can kind of translate that to who we at least should be, who most of us are, We're salvageable, right? I don't know, sometimes I wish people would just spend a little more time in spiritual community. My daughter, oh, she was just so upset yesterday. I didn't even expect that to just come out. But just feeling kind of lost, feeling almost condemned to a life in a country where inhumanity is the norm. I don't want that for her, right? So I just have to remember that that's not who we are. That's really not who we are. And crafting helps me, and petting my cat, to remember that. It's hard to remember that. I'm finding, I don't know, maybe I'm too sensitive. Am I? You let me know. What do you think, Paris? She's just happy to be here. Another thing that is really cool about crafting is we could argue that it sort of trains moral attention by cultivating our attentiveness. I've talked about noticing before, just the idea of noticing, like where I am in what I'm making, or here, I want to knit a little bit, baby. Okay, just kind of sit up there. She's really excited to have me podcast from the kitchen table, I can tell you. Noticing, correcting errors, adjusting to the needs of the material. I was just in there spinning on, I'm going to go back, the Athena wheel that I bought from one of my fiber crafting friends. She was having trouble using it. She called it a work of art because it was sitting as a sculpture in her room. And I'm like, I'll give it a chance. And I tried it kind of briefly. But as far as adjusting to the needs of the material, that goes for, yeah, honey, just move over there. The material that our tools are made of. I had a knitting needle the other day. I got out an emery board to try to plane away a flaw in the needle. So it's like we see flaws, and what are we going to do? We're just going to blow them away? Am I going to just like break the needle? No, I'm going to tend to it. I'm going to care for it. I'm going to nurture it. And there is an element of that in crafting that, you gain a tolerance for errors and for noticing when things are going well, when things need adjusting and fixing things and being patient. And it's the same kind of attention that's really foundational to ethical behavior. I mean, even in raising my puppy, am I going to kick him every time he pees on the floor? No. I tend him, I nurture him. I correct him. Sure, of course, that's a correction. There are different ways of correcting, but it should be something that happens out of love and not out of like road rage. That's different. That's different. And there's a lot of that going on. And people are getting paid to do it. It's a risk of being who we are that we have to tame. That's part of ethical behavior. That's part of learning ethics, is to counteract these tendencies. We're not perfect, right? But the last thing we want to do is cultivate the worst aspects of us. And I think as crafters, as people who devote our attention to this kind of activity, we have a leg up on being good people. I honestly believe that. And it's true of a lot of activities. It's true of a lot. I mean, you could be a very careful, trained user of a firearm. And I've even written about that in my novel of, just a minor character who's like a very proud sharpshooter in like Target, winning awards and stuff for that. There are a lot of activities, crafting is huge on the list, that help us to be attentive, caring, to improve ourselves, to look for opportunities to do better. And I think crafting is a really good arena for that. It's like rehearsing goodness, observing it, cultivating it, rehearsing it through practice. That's kind of a cool thing about crafting. I've talked about agency a lot on this channel, and I think today is another good opportunity that when you hear the kind of news we've been hearing lately, and it just doesn't stop, and unfortunately it's not going to stop. You feel powerless. But when we make things, and we finish things, and even we start things, it rebuilds, it rekindles the sense of agency within us that we desperately need, because it's so easy to feel helpless. I live 5 hours from Minneapolis, and my writers group, that's where everybody's from. That's we meet over Zoom, but the grand majority of people live there in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I live 5 hours away. I could drive over there and I could try to do something I'm not sure would help, but I feel insulated in a powerless kind of way from what's going on. I'm fortunate, right? I live in red state. Nobody's bothering us. But I can't take that for granted. I can't take that for granted, because look at what I talk about, right? And I'm not going to stop. So, yeah, I can still make something. I can make something good. I can make something useful. I can make something that brings joy, even if it's just to myself, even if it's to my cat. It gives me agency. It makes me feel less powerless. Crafting is a way to tap into our confidence that we're capable, that we can make the world a better place. And even doing that in a small way is good. A lot of us are limited, but boy, am I following the people who actually do have power, who are using it to advantage, and subscribing and commenting and all that good stuff. So at least something. Another thing that might come across as a little bit unexpected, but I've already kind of mentioned this, that we're not flawless. We never will be. We always have to tame certain aspects of ourselves that are always going to be there. That's part of morality, part of ethics. Handmade objects, they're not flawless, you know. You can accept the flaws. You can accept the drop stitches. You can accept the uneven edges. You can accept whatever it is. You know, the gauge changed. A needle broke and there's, you know, a stitch got backwards. I mean, we can love the outcome, flaws and all. And sometimes things seem like flaws that aren't. And we have an opportunity to embrace apparent flaws as difference. The object of improvisation, a variation that is a pleasant surprise, a happy surprise. So on the one hand, we have to understand that imperfection is just part of who we are. It's part of life. And it's like the yin and yang. It's part of what's good about existence. And handmade objects are a great reminder of that. It's like a rebuttal of the harshness and absolutism that often underlie cruelty. You know, cruelty, I've seen, it's like, again, when I think about dogs, you know, I think about, is that dog going to be perfect as far as being potty trained? I mean, my 9-year-old dog barfed on my bed last night. I slipped past it. I know she feels bad about it. I'm not going to be absolute or like perfect in my demands. That's ridiculous. And crafting is just, it's a great reminder, you know. And I've talked about that before, like factory made things, we expect them to be perfect. Nothing's perfect. And we need to embrace imperfection as just part and parcel of the ride. It's just part and parcel. And just sort of to reiterate what I was saying earlier about creation versus destruction. Cruelty involves destruction on a physical level and also on a moral level, because it destroys safety, obviously, destroys life and limb. It also destroys trust. Crafting is the opposite. Crafting builds warmth. It builds care. It builds continuity. Through what I was talking about, you know, ancestors. It builds beauty and it builds connection. So it's kind of a great opposite of the cruelty that's unfolding. And engaging in it is very healing. I find it that way. In any case, every finished piece, even if it's a small one, is a reminder that creation is, at the very least, as fundamental to human nature as destruction. And hopefully more so. Thoughts about Goethe are coming into my mind. The quote at the end of Faust, and I'll just say it in German: Wer immer streben sich bemüht, den können wir erlösen. Whoever strives can be redeemed. Crafting is a good reminder of that. Crafting is like trying. It's like striving. It's like pushing yourself in a positive direction. And I'm going to go back in there and do some more spinning on my unfamiliar wheel. I'm going to push myself to master it. It feels good. I look at the yarn that I'm making and no, it's not perfect. It's going to be art yarn. But it's also going to be an example, a reminder, a witness, a testimony to my positive nature, the good humanity, the good dimension of humanity that I exhibit as a person and that I think most of us exhibit. And we need to remind ourselves that that's where it's at. That, you know, I mean, Darren, if you're listening, right? My daughter, just a reminder that we're going to be okay. We deserve to be okay. And if we try, we can contribute to making things okay. So I hope that's kind of helpful. Helps me. I think it helped Paris a little bit. It's hard times. I can't wait for them to end. I wish there was more I could do to make them end. Definitely gonna vote this fall. But I hope there's more. I'm gonna look for opportunities. Where I live, the opportunities are a little bit thin. Got a lot of sympathizers, but a lot of passives, a lot of passivity. People are just kind of waiting for the wave to pass. So through our crafting, at least we can be reminded that it will pass. We deserve to have it pass, and we can do things, even small things, to push the arc of justice in the right direction. So on that note, I wish you all a great rest of your week. Keep in touch. Leave a comment. Leave some encouragement. It'll be okay. And I'll talk soon. Take care. Bye.